Okay, let's go to our public participation. I think we're back close to being on schedule. Well, we're ahead of schedule, actually, but we'll take that time. It's 10 o'clock. So we'll invite Alexandra Aframo. Is Alexandra here? Okay. Let's invite Lisa Bloom with UEA. Okay.
Thank you. Good morning, members. Lisa Nunta-Bloom from Utah Education Association. Recently, two experiences have caused me to really spend some time reflecting on our work together, and I thought I would share them and then also some conclusions that I arrived at. I received recently and have accepted a job offer in Washington, D.C. So this means my time with UEA and with this board is coming to an end. Of course, as I pack, which I haven't had a chance to get to much, but nonetheless, as I pack, I've been reflecting on the past 4 years. Also, my parents, excuse me, who live in northern Minnesota, but winter in Tucson, 3 weeks ago had a terrible car accident, and they were both horribly injured in a state that's not where any relative of ours lives, as luck would have it. I'm delighted to say that after 8 hospital rooms in 3 different facilities, they are on the mend. My mom is actually home now with home health care, and my father just yesterday got to Minnesota for a rehab facility, for a long-term care rehab facility. But it really causes one to think about the work that one does and what's important to you. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. Over the last 4 years, some of you have heard me many times talk about the need for stakeholder input, on the importance of making sure that their voices are heard in the crafting of rules and in the crafting of policies. Well, I've talked about the need for transparency and for collaboration, and on sometimes unintended consequences when we haven't gone a bit more slowly and thought about the ramifications of our actions. I think that over these last 4 years, I think things have significantly improved, and I thank you for that. You know, never one who can always be satisfied. I think we can even do a little bit better, but I really think progress has been made, and I appreciate that. Last night, UEA President Heidi Matthews sent you a letter regarding licensure and licensure rules, and most specifically the LEA-specific license. And I would urge you to read that letter and to see of the concerns that we still have as we move forward in this journey to continue to work on those rules. Most specifically in regard to the LEA-specific, well, that's a lot of specifics in one sentence. But I'd like you to really think about, there's no question we need an educator in every classroom. That's an undeniable truth. But there's also no question that our students deserve the very best educator in each one of those classrooms. And we need to work very hard, even as we're trying to be practical and match and do due diligence to ensure that we're putting the best teachers in these classrooms. And so I urge you to consider to look at the LEA to make sure that we're not passing rules that are because they're easy to do, but we're passing rules that ensure that our students have the best teacher in the classroom they can have. That is our duty, to have our standards upheld. I've greatly appreciated working with each one of you over these last 4 years. I appreciate the shared interests we have had at ensuring that our students have the best educational opportunities in this great state, and that each student has the opportunity to interact with an educator of high quality. So thank you for your service. Take care.
Lisa, I hope when you come back and visit family, whatever you've got going on, that you feel welcome to come visit us, and appreciate the advocacy that you've had for your organization and passion and patience with us. So thank you. Wendy Hart is next.
Thank you, members of the board. I'm here representing myself and Paula Hill. We're speaking on behalf of the ESSA denial that you will be discussing later today regarding Utah's opt-out provision, and we're asking you to defend Utah's current opt-out provision. The right of parents to direct their own child's education is protected in Utah law, but that right is not granted by the state of Utah. It is merely protected by our laws. As such, those rights are not rights elected officials can choose to remove at the request of the U.S. government. The 10th Amendment states the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. In a 1982 Utah Supreme Court ruling, Justice Dallin H. Oaks stated, "The rights inherent in family relationships, including parent and child, are the most obvious examples of rights retained by the people. They are natural, intrinsic, or prior in the sense that our constitutions presuppose them." Utah Code underscores this by saying that the parent or guardian is primarily responsible for their child's education and that the state is secondary and supportive to the parental role. Our current opt-out provision is consistent with natural rights in our state and federal constitutions. We stand on solid legal grounds. ESSA is a voluntary grant program from the federal government. They have no legal right to require parents to not opt their kids out of SAGE testing, and they will not ever know or hear or care about the deleterious effects on those individual students. The state of Utah has the solemn duty to protect and preserve those parental rights. And yet at the point that the feds offer money and ask us to circumvent those natural rights, should we go ahead and do so? If ESSA were not a voluntary grant, but were instead legally binding on the state of Utah, it would be declared unconstitutional. Instead, the U.S. Department of Education can bribe Utahns to give up our state sovereignty and the natural rights of our citizens because they offer a caveat of money if we choose to comply. If we agree, we choose to remove some of the fundamental rights we each swore an oath to protect. In that same ruling, Justice Oaks explains, "We conclude that the right of a parent not to be deprived of parental rights without a showing of unfitness, abandonment, or substantial neglect is so basic to our constitutional order that it ranks among those rights referred to in the Utah and the United States Constitution as being retained by the people. With a single vote by this body in exchange for monetary compensation, parents throughout the state of Utah can be deprived of their parental rights without due process, without showing unfitness or substantial neglect. We all know from past experience that the U.S. Department of Ed is playing a game of political chicken. They are hoping we will back down because if they give in to us, then they will have to give in to the other 49 states. How can they justify penalizing the state of Utah because we are protecting parental rights and fulfilling our oaths to support the U.S. Constitution and the unalienable rights it was designed to protect? Please stand strong and tell the U.S. Department of Education they must reconsider. Inform them that you are unable to violate the rights of the people you swore an oath to protect. Thank you.
Well, I'll just ask one more time for Alexandra Framo. Is she? Okay. Well, this concludes our public participation segment.